listings. All right, cool. All right, let's get this going. So I've got a deal that we just closed on. So we had a really big week this week in terms of acquisitions. I think we put 4 properties under contract, which is about double the amount that we usually do. Typically speaking, on a week-to-week basis, we may do 2 or maximum 3. This week we got 4, and that's just randomness. So for anyone who is out there making offers, a lot of this stuff kind of comes in waves. And I actually had a bunch of people who I just started working with who wanted to wait until the beginning of the year to start marketing because they felt like there were going to be less deals because of the holidays. And I just want to say that's absolutely not true. There's no point throughout the year really where deal flow should ever slow down. You definitely get, deals and kind of ebbs and flows and things like that. But throughout the year, motivated sellers are selling. So you need to be marketing. You need to be talking and meeting with sellers all year round. And there's really, outside of, the 1 or 2 days around Christmas and 4th of July, other than that, we are pretty much cranking all year round. And in fact, so the last week was Thanksgiving, and we put 4 deals under contract. So there's really no telling when this stuff is going to happen. You need to be constantly marketing, constantly talking to sellers in order to make sure that you are ahead of the curve. So the deal I'm going to talk about today, and I haven't talked about a condo deal yet. So I wanted to do that because we did get a condo deal under contract that we closed on. I'm going to open this up. It's, let me see, 1006 Paradise Road in Swampscott. So one of the things that we have started to do is we've started to put up billboards in specific areas where we really like to buy houses, and then mailing and calling behind the billboards. So let me just see really quickly if I can just give you guys an example of like what one of our billboards looks like, just so that you guys can get an example of this. And by the way, billboards is definitely not a strategy I would recommend for pretty much anybody on the call. It's super expensive, and it's not something you want to do until you have a really, really big marketing budget. But let me just pull this up. All right, so what we've been doing is we've been putting up billboards like the one here, and then hitting all of that surrounding area with mailers and then cold calls. And so the three things combined make pretty much every seller in our market feel like we are everywhere, right? So they're at home, they're getting calls, they're opening their mailbox, our letters are in their mailbox, and they're driving around the city that they live in, and they're seeing these really, really pretty billboards up. So this deal that we just got in Swampscott, which is a condo, was from this mechanism. And so we definitely mailed this person. And, at the end of the day, we never know, is it the mailing that worked right? Is it the billboards? Is it the cold calling? Or is it a combination of all three? But just in terms of marketing overall, the more that you market to somebody, the more likely they are to pay attention to you, right? So anyways, this is a condo deal. And, I know there are some people on the line that, they're not necessarily in condo markets, but condos are really, really, really easy to comp. And so this valuation is probably going to be super simple and very easy to understand. but I do want to review it because I've never done a condo on this yet. So obviously the address of the property and the document that I'm opening right now is the 30 to whatever page, 43 page report that we do on every single property before we actually go out and meet with the homeowner. So before we go out and meet with the homeowner, we have our offer pretty much 90% complete. So us going out, meeting face-to-face with the seller is really just simply to build rapport with the seller, go through our sales process, which is the same each and every time, present our offer, and ultimately try to negotiate the best deal for both parties. So the first sheet here is just a summary of the property. So it's 1006 Paradise Road, Unit 1E in Swampscott. So let's just go on Google Maps for a second. So Google Maps, obviously, for a condo and a condo complex is a lot less important, because when you go on Google Maps for a single family, you can get a really good idea of the style of the house, of the type of the house. And in this case, I'm not even completely sure what building it's in. I mean, it's not that building that looks like an office park. So it's probably, I don't even know. It's probably that's 1000, that's 1008. And this is, what is the address of this one? 1006. So it's somewhere up in there. So, I mean, Google Maps in this case isn't going to help us, but we do look at Google Maps each and every time, especially on a single family. Like I mentioned, it's a condo, and all of these data points that I have on the front page are really the data points that we look at to help make a determination on what to offer on the property. There's no one data point that we use exclusively. We use everything together in order to really get an overall really good analysis of the property and what to offer. When it comes to a condo, it's a little bit different though, because when you're looking at a single family, it can be difficult to compare apples to apples, right? So there can be, in some cases, properties that are on the same street, have similar square footages, etc. But even typically, when you're comparing properties that sold on the same street, typically the style might be a little bit different, right? The exterior is going to be a little bit different potentially. It might have been built in a different year. One property might have been built in 1950. One property might have been built in 1970. But with condos, we're really getting an apples to apples comparison, especially if we're doing it in a large complex, which this definitely was. By looking at the street scene, we definitely saw that for a fact that it was a big complex, right? So a lot of the stuff to me, and this is the way that we analyze every property. So some of this stuff doesn't matter as much. So the average sales price within a tenth of a mile, a quarter of a mile, a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, and 1 mile. This is all relevant data. And as you can see, for almost everything, we're right at about 200,000. But because we're in a condo complex and because there's going to be so many units that are comparable to one another, I'm going to actually throw a lot of this data kind of out the window, as long as we can find a comparable condo within that complex that sold within a very short period of time, right? So, I'm just looking through. So what my team came up with was an after repair value of 207, a repair budget of 50. So the repair budget on a condo is going to be a lot different than the repair budget on a single family. And so this repair estimate is actually what we use when we're doing a condo conversion. And we're basically gutting, the inside of one unit, 1,800 square foot type of unit. In this case, where it's in a condo complex, and these numbers are being put in by an admin that I have, my full-time admin. And so it's up to me to kind of make these adjustments. So in a lot of cases, the repair estimate on a condo in a condo complex is going to be a lot different. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually see if I can pull up the pictures for this, just to give you guys an example of what this property actually looked like and why I made some of the decisions that I made on this one. So hold on for one quick second and see if I can get in here. So there's no befores in there. Let me check Cluster, which is another program that my agents share with me, and hopefully I can. Cool. So the agent that went out here, Lisa Licata, shared these pictures with me. So my agents will go out with me. It will go out on these appointments. They will take pictures of the property while they're out there. They'll use a program called Cluster, which allows instantaneous sharing of the picture. So as soon as she clicks share, I get an email like this. So for those of you who are working with me directly right now, if you ever want to share a deal with me, all you have to do is share it via Cluster. And another one of my admins, Jen, sends out the Cluster invites as soon as you sign on. So if you're working with me directly right now and you don't have a Cluster login, just shoot me an email so that we can get you a Cluster login. But yeah, so this is what they look like. So I got this notification, right? And so now I've got 16 photos of this property. And the 16 photos of this property are ultimately going to help me determine whether or not it makes sense for me to buy this property, whether or not it makes sense for me to ultimately come up on my offer, whether or not, it's something that's a quick rehab, a small rehab. So as we can see, I looked on Google Maps. I couldn't really get a really good indication as to what the building looks like. But now we've got a really good indication of what the building looks like. This is a big building. I don't know how many units are in here, but just from looking at a picture like this, it's probably going to be a minimum of 20 or 30 units, which is important for me to know. So let's just look through the pictures and let's just see how this compares to the $50,000 budget that we automatically put in on day one. By the way, for those of you who are listening, do you guys have any questions so far? Is this stuff kind of making sense? If it's making sense, can you just type into the chat box and let me know? Because I don't want to keep going on if there's anything that so far doesn't make sense. So you just let me know by typing into the chat box that everything so far is at least making sense. Cool. All right. It looks like everything is. So I'm going to continue on. And again, these are the pictures of the property. So when I see a property like this, when I'm seeing, this is just picture one. My gut feeling on just looking at this, there's just this first picture is that this is going to be ultimately a paint and carpet job. This is going to be a light reno, but let's just go through these and let's see if that will continue to be the case. And most condos in a condo complex, as long as the person didn't literally come in there with a baseball bat or didn't flood the place or there wasn't a fire, tend to be more along the paint and carpet job type thing. Because as you can see, like the ceilings are in good shape. The floors themselves, they just need to be, again, painted. They just need to be carpeted or new flooring, but they're, there's no structural, issues or anything like that. Again, very basic, open layout, open concept. This property will look 100 times different with just paint and just carpet. And continuing on again, same take. And so on a kitchen like this, we're going to have to make a decision. And based on what I see in the comps as we move forward, we're either going to have to make a decision. Do we do kind of a full renovation on the kitchen? Do we take out these countertops? Do we take out these cabinets and make it perfect? Or do we just make it a lot nicer? And so depending upon what we see in the comps is going to determine what we end up doing. Because just from looking at this right here, right, just putting different countertops and maybe even switching out some of the handles on the cabinets and or painting the cabinets, something very simple and low cost will probably go a long way. But we've got to see what the comps in this building look like and what they're selling for in order to make a determination on whether or not that actually makes sense. So again, going through, it's dated. I mean, this whole building is dated. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just going to be a matter of getting this up to speed. Bathroom, same deal, dated. So it's going to be a matter of, what level of renovation do we have to get get the number that we need to get. So let's go back to the actual report. So, I mean, I can just say, even if we pretty much do everything, our repair estimate is going to be lower than 50,000 right off the bat, 100% guarantee, right? So, so my team came up with an after repair value of 207. They put the repair estimate of 50, which we know is too high, to get to the purchase price of 95,530. They came up with a retail value of 189. So the other thing about condos that's kind of, it's good and bad depending on how you look at it, is there's not a big variance between retail price and after repair value in general, because really there's not a lot of value that you can add. I mean, if you look at that condo, if you remember the pictures that we just looked at within the last 10 seconds, it's not like there's a ton of value that we can add there. So we really just have to make the decision, do we get it up to retail? And again, I'm just looking at this first page based on what my CMA team has given me. Do we do everything and get it to 207? Or do we just kind of make it livable and nice and freshen it up and sell it for 189? And assuming that the comps behind this, that I agree with it, and assuming that this first page is right, my take on this would be it's definitely not worth the extra work to make an extra 17,000. So to go crazy on this property to maybe squeak out an extra 17,000 doesn't make any sense. So we've got the Zillow value of 207, which is always a data point that we look at. We look at the Zillow value, number one, because it is a valuation point. But number two, it's also something that the seller always looks at. We look at the assessed value for the same reason. The assessed value in my market tends to be lower than what the property is actually worth. But more importantly than that, the assessed value is almost always something that the seller looks at, right? So there was a prior MLS listing on this property. So a prior MLS listing on any property is huge, right? So I actually want to jump into that just to see right now, because that's always super important. So let's just see when this was, 1998. Man, I can't believe 1998 is 20 years ago at this point. That is so crazy. So the market was a lot different in 1998. 1998 is like the starting point, like from the late 1990s until about 2005. There was that bull market for the real estate market in almost all markets across the country. So 1998 was kind of like the beginning of that. In the beginning 1990s up to about the mid 1990s, the economy was bad. Property prices were super low. But 20 years ago, we know for a fact this property is worth a lot more now. So what does a prior listing show us? Well, number one, we see that this property sold for $93,000 back 20 years ago. So we know the value is much higher than that today, right? What does it also tell us? It also gives us an idea. We can look at the remarks. And again, this is assuming that we haven't been out to the property yet. So this tells me a lot about the property without even having gone out to it yet. Spacious and attractive, 1-bedroom flat in quiet area, lovely views, clubhouse, exercise, saunas. So it's a full service condo property, right? So, and then you look at the association. What does the association include? So essentially, this is the type of condo complex where somebody can move in and not have to really do any work, not really have to do any upkeep, but the upkeep in their unit. And as we saw in that unit, I mean, this is only a 900 square foot unit. There's not going to be a lot of upkeep in a simple property like this. Okay, so I'm looking at this thinking, man, 93,000, property's worth a lot more. We looked at some of the stuff on the first page there, and the values were coming in at somewhere around 200,000. So we know that just seems about right. And again, we're looking at data points just to see, to get an idea of where our value is going to be. So flip offer 95,000. There was a prior MLS listing. Number of units is a condo. Year built 1973. The year built is huge, right? So what does 1973 tell me? 1973 in Boston is practically like a new property. That's not the case in a lot of the markets across the country. And I know I've got a guy on the line in Jacksonville where there is some older stuff, but there's a lot of newer stuff. So in Boston, when I see 1973, I'm thinking, man, this is going to be an easy rehab. So if this was a house that was built in 1973, I'm thinking easy rehab. But the fact that it was a condo built in 1973, I'm thinking, wow, this is nothing. This is going to be very easy. This is going to be 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get my team in and out. And again, I'm only debating on this renovation. Do I do a full renovation? Do I update everything, or do I do a lighter renovation and kind of just clean everything up? So obviously we have the Google Map image, which we already hit on. And this is the pre-property analysis. Public record, which is huge. Public record gives us a lot of information. We already looked at the prior MLS history, which is better usually than public record, because what's listed on the MLS tends to be the most updating information, and sometimes public record can be incorrect. So in the absence of a prior MLS listing, I'm looking heavily at public record, right? But when there is prior MLS history, I'm probably looking at the prior MLS history more so than public record. So in this case, I'm just looking, okay, the address, it's a condo, year built 1973, 1 bed, 1 bath, 911 square feet. Again, last sales date 1998, sold for $93,000. I know our values are going to be way up. We're looking at the assessed value of $154. Again, assessed value tends to be typically a little bit lower than what fair market value is in my market. And whatever market you're working in, you need to know that relationship. Is assessed value typically about what the property's worth? Is it assessed value is a little bit less than what the property's worth? Is assessed value a little bit more than what the property's worth? So you need to know that relationship. And in general, every market, assessed value some way correlates with the true value, right? Mortgage balance. Mortgage balance is always huge, because mortgage balance allows us to know, can they even accept an investment offer, right? Because if the mortgage balance is higher than what the investment offer is going to be, then at the end of the day, they can't even take our offer. So what I'm seeing here is the mortgage balance was $100,000 in 2004. And man, I can't believe 2004 was 14 years ago. Okay. So that's crazy. But that means that this mortgage balance, if you look at an amortization schedule, and a typical property is financed over the course of 30 years, you pay more interest in the beginning than principal. So this is about halfway through the 30 years. So we know he owes more than $50,000 because a typical amortization schedule pays off more interest than principal in the beginning. Let's be conservative, say he owes $75,000, right? And my offer was $90,000. Can he take an investment offer? In this case, yes, for sure they can. Okay. So again, we looked at the prior MLS history, and next we're going to be looking at the comps. Okay. So what do we want to see in the comps? If we are in a condo complex where there are comparables in that building, that overrides everything. So like I mentioned early on, we looked at average sales price within a tenth of a mile, a quarter of a mile, a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, 1 mile. All the stuff on a single family is very relevant. On a condo in a condo complex, we really want to use a condo in that condo complex as the comp. Okay. So again, any questions on this stuff, just ask me now, stop me. I'm more than happy to go into as much detail as you need. But let's continue on. And if you do have questions, just type them into the chat box, right? So this is the same building. This is a retail comp. Retail comp meaning this is what the property would sell for if it was in a 5 or 6 or 7 out of 10 condition, right? So what do we see here when we compare this to our subject property? Well, it's in the same building. It's got the same bedrooms, Let's get the same baths. Ours is 900 square feet. This is 815 square feet. Not really a big deal. Not a big deal between one versus the other. Let's look at the condition of this property. This sold for $200,000. All right. So what is the condition of this property? The condition of this property is the exact condition that our property would be in if we did a paint and carpet job, if we did a minimal rehab. If we did a minimal rehab and we just painted it, just got it to look nice, didn't redo the cabinets, didn't redo the countertops, didn't redo the baths, right? This property is not modern or updating in any way. This is just clean. You can move in. And the difference between this property and the property that we have, right, if we go back to these pictures, is really that it's just cleaned up. It's just painted. It just has, I keep saying paint and carpet, but that's what this one is, right? If you painted these cabinets, if you put a new floor down, right, and if you painted the walls, our property just looks messy. I mean, that's really what it is, right? Everything else is exactly the same as this. So roughly speaking, and I'm just kind of throwing numbers out there, probably for about $15,000, we can get our property to look like this property. So what does that mean in terms of an offer, right? That means in terms of an offer that if our property is worth $200,000, and then we multiply that by 70%, and then subtract $15,000 from it, that actually gets me to a purchase price of $125,000. Okay. So our CMA team came up with a flip amount of $95,000. Now I'd love to get this property for $95,000, but given the condition of it, given the comps, most likely the $125,000 number is going to be more realistic. Now let's just see what we paid on this one. Let's just see what we paid on this one. Hopefully those docs are in here. All right, so we closed on this property November 29th, 2017, which is yesterday. We paid $130,000, right? So real rough numbers. I came up with $125,000. We paid $130,000. I'm not going to lie. I love this deal. And I'll tell you why I love this deal. I love this deal because for a couple reasons. Number one, we had such a damn good comp. Now, in condo complexes, you can get those comps a lot easier. So the comp that we have here of the $199 is a perfect comp. When did this one sell? Oh man, this is a perfect comp. I mean, you just can't ask for anything better, and this is not normal, but this just sold, right? So this property literally just sold for the $199. And the reality is, if we put $15,000 in, we're going to get a little bit more than this $199. We're not going to get a lot more, but they actually didn't just refresh this property. Some things about this property aren't still, great. We're going to do some minor things like, just simple things like putting in a new refrigerator, putting in a new stove in the $15,000 budget. So reality is we're calling this $199. What I most likely did, and I can't exactly recall, but I most likely put it at $205, subtracted out the $15,000 to get to roughly the $130, which is what we paid. But the reason I love this deal, number one, is because we have such a good comp. I really like certainty when I'm buying a property. I don't like to guess at what the value of the property is going to be worth after the fact. If I know for sure what the property is going to be worth after the fact, I'm actually willing to pay a little bit more. Because in some cases, in a lot of cases, especially on a single family where there might not be a lot of great comps, you're doing the best that you can to get the after repair value, but you don't necessarily always have the after repair value. So I love that. I also love the fact in this market that this is a quick turn property. This is a 2-week renovation. So we can buy this, renovate it in 2 weeks, put it right back on the market, and get it basically at the 70 cents on the dollar that we strive for. So between those two things, I really, really like this deal. I'm going to take another look at the other comps. So this one, same building, same square footage, same baths, a little bit smaller square footage, but again, no big deal. So this one sold for 179, 189, 190, 189. Okay, so let's just see if there's anything different about this one than the one previous. Not really. This one sold about 6 months prior. The market's come up just a little bit. Oh no, this one sold for 179. I'm sorry. So what's different about this one? Let's see. See if there's anything noticeably different. I would just say this one's probably more dated. This one's probably more dated. This one might be what ours would look like if we actually, now that I'm looking at this a little bit more, this is probably what our subject property would look like if we literally just cleaned it. Literally just cleaned it and resold it. And so that's also another important thing to consider. So let's say that this property sold for 179. So if I take 179 times 70%, and then I'm going to call this cleanup job. I'm going to call this a $5,000 job. Gets us to 120. So again, this is just really supporting my value in terms of, what I think makes the most sense. And it also supports the fact that it makes more sense to put the $15,000 into this property than to just clean it up. Okay. So you'll get a little bit more value. And then the third thing I was talking about was, does it make sense to do the full gut renovation, right? Does it make sense to do the after repair? And in this case, I don't think it does. So I think what we came to the conclusion on this one was that it makes sense to put the 15 grand into it, get it to look nice, not go over the top with it, and to get the 199 as the other one sold for. So yeah, I mean, this is essentially how you analyze a condo. They're much, much easier than single families. The issue with condos, and I mean, I love doing condo projects, it's typically harder to get good deals on them, right? Because there's an apples to apples comparison for every owner. For this particular seller that sold to us, I mean, because it's easy for us to get comps, it's easy for them to get comps. And it's easier for them to see what the property might sell for. So condos we've always found they're harder to get deals on. But at the end of the day, they're great properties. They're easy projects to do. They're perfect for people who are doing their first renovation for sure. So any other questions on this or anything else, I'm more than happy to kind of go off topic on anything related to real estate investing at all. Obviously, we're talking about valuations right now, but whatever else you guys need help with, just let me know. So is there anything else before I sign off that anybody wants me to cover? If anybody wants to jump on, talk about their own deals, talk about anything real estate investing related, just type into the chat box and I'll get you an answer. In the meantime, I want to just put up really quickly our new weekly training calendar. So that's www.oceancityweeklytraining.com. So when you go to www.oceancityweeklytraining.com, you're going to see our full training calendar that everybody on here has access to. So man, we keep adding more and more, and I'm actually not done adding to this calendar. My goal is really to make this a training organization, right? So that there are no investing topics that you don't have access to each and every day. So as you can see, every single day, we have multiple topics, right? So every single day, so Monday through Friday, so every single day, Monday through Friday, by the way, there's a live open session from 3 to 4 p.m., right? From 3 to 4 p.m., you can jump on Monday through Friday and talk about anything that you need help with. Doesn't matter. Totally open. So these are open office hours for people that have questions, right? So every single day, like on a Monday, there's 3 sessions because there's the Monday at 1, Monday at 10, Monday at 1, and then there's the Monday at 3. Tuesday, There's Tuesday at 10, Tuesday at 1, Tuesday at 3. Every single day, there's at least 2 sessions. Actually, every single day, there's 3 sessions, except for Thursday, like today. There's only a 9 and a 3, so there's only 2 sessions today. So that's really it. So Mike just asked a question. He's part of the warm calling system to access Mojo. Do I need to jump on Monday's call first? Yes. Well, you know what I would do actually, Mike? So today's Thursday. I would jump on the 3 o'clock call. And if you jump on the 3 o'clock call, which is open to everybody, open session, you can just take that session over. So my sales manager, who actually is in charge of managing everybody and helping everybody with the warm calling system, is the one that does the 3 o'clock meeting. So if you jump on, you can just take that meeting over, because essentially she's just there from 3 to 4 on a session like we're on right now. And she's just waiting for people to jump on. And a lot of times people will jump on, but they don't participate. So if you go on at 3 o'clock, you can just take it over and just say, hey, Carrie, what do I need to do next? And she'll set you up. And she'll probably give you the basics, and then she'll say, yeah, attend the Monday session to get started. So yeah, I'm excited that you're on board. You're going to do really well as long as you hit those 8 hours every single week. We've got people. I've got somebody right now that's booking about 2 face-to-face appointments a day, which is pretty crazy. She's going on anywhere from 5 to 10 face-to-face seller appointments a week from the warm calling system. So yeah, you guys got to get out there. You got to get face-to-face with as many people, but also plug into all this stuff, Mike. I mean, there's so much, this business isn't complicated. It's not complicated, but there is a lot to learn. The good news is that once you kind of learn everything, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months into it, there's not a lot of new stuff. So real estate doesn't change all that much, which is one of the benefits of, learning it, where it's not like a technology company where something might stop working. Like how you prospect to motivated sellers, how you analyze deals, all of that stuff will never change. But yeah, just plug into as much of it as you can. So again, want to thank everybody for jumping on. Whatever else you guys need help with, just let me know. Like you can see on the screen right now, there is an insane amount of training that we offer and we give away. So please take advantage of it. So thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you later.